Okay. Like to call the budget committee to order and welcome everyone here. And ask for approval of the minutes from the looks like September 29th. I can move that because myself and look at Neil second it.
Hi. Got to abstain, I wasn't here.
I was gonna say that was the same with me, that's why.
I haven't seen him.
Oh.
Nothing. All right, I also.
Abstained.
Not everybody can make this.
All right, where to start?
That was.
Oh, yeah. About on the last page.
Well,
Page probably isn't a bad place to start.
I'll start with the tax cap. The allowable increase to the tax levy is $1,848,827, which is a 4.08% increase. Okay. Through the budget, we've been up above the tax cap, well over $2 million. At this point, it's minus the sheriff's department pay increases, it's back below the tax cap. Now, that being said, the pay increases for the sheriff's department with fringe totals to $1,558,238. Some other good, what I perceive to be good news is the value of the county. Has increased by $1,321,442,530, which is a substantial increase.
That brings it up around 12 billion.
Yep, it's 12,264,000,000. I think overall the pay increases, I think total up in around $4.3 million, somewhere in that area for everyone. That's the $5,720 each. There's also
Is that with or without the sheriff?
that's with. Yep. The health insurance, I kind of thought staying at zero would be a good thing, and it was a good thing. But the net savings that we got was about 186,000, which I thought wasn't. And another thing I'd like to mention is the retirement has increased. And some of that's due to more salary, but I think some of it's due to the rates increased also. And that would be 452,000. There's also 1 million. I'm going to say 570,000 for band payment on the $7.9 million that we borrowed, I think last year. That's in the D fund. The sales tax, I have the budget at the 2021 actual, which is $64,978,027. That's a $8,356,542 increase. And 48% of that, which is what the county gets, is about $4,011,000. So that brings it up close to 65 million. And the latest 1014 sales tax, we're up 10.2, which is equates to almost pretty close to 5 million above the 21. So
20. Above the 21.
I wanted to have this meeting to just, tell the budget committee where we're at and see what they feel about it. This sheet that you have before you is the result of a personnel request. Considerable more requests than are on here now. I think at the beginning, it was like a $300,000 increase. I think now it's 44. Yeah, about 44,000. Yes, that was substantial. Absolutely.
I didn't hear that, Craig. What was the question?
Health services, when they came in with their budget, they really cut back a lot on the payroll. When you take a look, mostly on page 2 there.
Right,
All those.
yeah, there were a lot.
Were these not filled? Or were these full positions that they eliminated?
They couldn't fill them, I believe, so eventually they decided they had to delete them because they didn't have any success in filling them.
They haven't deleted all of their vacant positions for nursing,
Right,
but felt that they could reimagine some of their department. And some of the tasks perhaps could be done with employees that were not nursing. You'll see that there.
Right.
Nice.
There's a couple of things that they're trying to, especially on the public health side, reimagine based on state aid and whatnot. And, it's all over, I think, that they're looking for nurses, so hard for them to do.
Pete. Yep.
So I guess one thing that I'm looking for is the budget officer is the tax cap and are people comfortable with that amount of increase? By my calculations, and again, that they could be skewed, but I'm not, I'm not 100% on them. But my calculations, it would be about an 8-cent increase to the tax rate. So it would go from about $3.90 up to $3.97, so 7-8 cent tax increase in the rate.
That's the per thousand rate?
Yep. If I did my calculations correct.
Yeah, and that's prorated. Senior Creek went through a revaluation, right?
Right, that's at 100%. You know, if your town's at 100%, if you're below that, then it's probably gonna go above the 3 point. So. Because I have vast experience with that.
So you were able to trim everything. That was a lot.
Yeah, I pushed some revenues, probably a little more than I would normally. And I did a lot of reduction.
You said we're even with this tax cap increase.
Yes, but that does not include the sheriff. That is gonna have to, you know, if we're gonna cut another $1.5 million, I mean, we can do that, obviously. But I guess my theory on that is we add to the appropriated surplus of the general fund, which is at 1 million, and we add the 1,558,000 plus whatever we need to make sure we stay under the tax.
And what will that do to our projected fund balance? We're taking,
That'll reduce it by whatever it is, whatever it is.
where are we at now? Do you know?
Where are we at now? You really want to know?
I'd like to know.
Let's see. To date, we have spent $3,375,046. If you take that off 36. We're
10%.
yep, and also there's let's see. Well, there's another possibly 400,000 on the table with the sheriff and the cameras in the city of Glens Falls. That has got a postponed, but I don't think it hasn't gone away. I would say we're probably heading towards 4 million of money that we've spent. So I would, just for easy numbers, probably we're about 32. So if you take another say $1.6 million, you're gonna be heading down towards 30.
If we use fund balance to make it this year, that 1.5 million becomes part of the budget, and we're looking at that as our legacy.
Right.
We need to make that up next year, either.
That's your taxes.
Yeah.
Yep. Or more sales tax. The sales tax stays up and improves. Then but eventually you'll either have to keep paying it or you know, raise taxes or cut spending. Yes, Supervisor Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the question was raised, where we're at with the salaries for the sheriff's department. So right now, we're at the cap. If I understood the question, you're answered. And with the increase to the sheriff's department, it's about $1.5 million.
Yep.
Is there any opportunities when you mentioned the sales tax and you budgeted it at the 2021 actual, and it looks like we might be $5 to $7 million greater this year than last year. Is there any maneuvering room there with your sales tax number to help offset that $1.5 million? Conceivably raise what you're appropriating for sales tax a little higher than the 2021 actual?
Yeah, you could. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't. I just think it's, you're getting closer to the cliff.
Well. I mean, I'd like to see us get, to the point where we don't exceed the tax cap.
Right. Yeah,
I think that things are gonna be very difficult. I went to the store the other day and bought a loaf of rye bread like this and it was $5. I mean. Not to say that the employees were not entitled to, I agreed with that and I supported that and I knew that it was gonna be a challenging budget. I think you've done a good job to get to where we're at. But I'd like us to do, maybe take a little harder look at some of the appropriations and help to cut that deficit. We're proposing in this budget 1.5 down a little bit, maybe tighten up our spending a little bit. I had a couple of things that
Okay.
maybe we could consider, but
Right.
all in all, I think we're headed, many different forecasts are out there on the economy coming in 2023. I'm not sure where we're gonna end up, but to pass along an increase, if you minimize the increase, I think that would be the direction we could go. I don't know if we've considered, I know we have many vacancies out there. Considered a hiring freeze for 6 months and fund those vacancy positions for a 6-month period. I don't know what that number would mean in regards to the budget. I know that there's been monies appropriated, $200,000 for a comprehensive plan. I personally feel that monies should be moved back into the general fund and help balance the budget. With a comprehensive plan, when you develop the comprehensive plan, to take action with that plan, you've got to have money. I mean, to develop a plan and put it on a shelf doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And there's a couple $100,000 there. So I think if we look a little bit closer, maybe we can cut that number down a little bit.
Yeah, well, we can.
There's a couple other things I looked in there also that
I will just
we can
say,
talk about.
I will just say so that I haven't been just napping. I've reduced the request by $1,854,966. We also took up 84,940 in the 0.2s that the board did spend out of fund balance that won't be raised by tax. And due to Tammy's hard work, we increased revenues because of the increase in salaries by $580,754, which is a total of $2,510,660. That's been either increased or reduced the revenue. The other revenue was basically the treasurer's office and the county clerk, and that I can tell you exactly what it.
I just hope you didn't take my comments to the point where you were napping. You mentioned that, and that was not the intention.
No,
at
I'm just
all. I think you've done a good job, and it's a hard job what you've done. But I didn't mean to have you taking these comments the wrong way. Now, I know the sheriff has requested cars. That money's not in his budget, but it'll come out of the account for vehicle replacement, correct? How much monies do we put into the vehicle replacement account on an annual basis?
I think it's 600 and something.
642.
642.
On an annual basis, okay.
Yeah, we increased it last year.
Okay.
A couple $100,000.
Now, I also, as I was going through some of these budgets, it appears to me that some of them may not hit, or some of them will exceed their spending plan for 2022. Ultimately, I think we have a couple choices. One, we move monies to balance that account. Or two, it falls back to fund balance at the end of the calendar year.
Yep.
I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that
I
I
think,
was understanding that correctly.
I think on average, each year, there's about $1 million of, money that's not spent. Or increased revenue that wasn't, estimated.
Yeah, because I was looking at details of the sheriff's account and he's not gonna hit his numbers. Either on the controller division side or the corrections, so we know the problems that we're having with corrections. We can't hire correctional officers and.
Yep.
So we have to exceed the time requests. Because we can't put anybody on.
Yeah, we have the same thing in,
That's an ongoing problem every year, I think, with corrections.
we have the same problem in DPW this year.
Yeah.
Several, or a dozen vacancies.
Yeah.
Plus. So you're right.
Well, all open positions are funded in the budget.
Yeah, but I've looked at two that, are not, represented on the sheet. That, total of, if they're fully funded with, tax dollars or sales tax, it's about 107,000. I haven't done a complete look, look at everyone. And, but as I've gone through, I've tried to look at the positions. So there's a couple that I feel can be, taken out.
Frank, it's a multi-layer question. What's the total budget? What percentage or what number of that is what we would call mandated services? Do you have those numbers?
I don't.
Yeah, we might.
Review last year's, like the percentages that were mandated.
So what's the total budget now?
I'm not sure what the total, it's gotta be pushing, probably between 185 and 190 million. Let's say. I think it was 170, was it 179 last year? So it's.
Question for Tammy, please. Just, Tammy, do you have the apportionment table prepared so I can look at it?
We have the footings, but we don't have the entire table done until we get the tentative budget, because we put that in.
So,
We're close on getting that. We will complete that as soon as we know what our numbers are going to be.
so maybe you can help me on this. The city's gone to 100% value. In last year, city paid $4,085,852. How is that going to change for the city?
Depends upon the percentage of the whole as the valuations went up.
Okay, the percentage last year was 8.75%.
I can't, I'm sorry.
If you could come up with that
Oh, absolutely.
tentative number
Oh,
in
absolutely.
advance of the adoption of the budget, it'll be very helpful to me.
No, we can. A lot plays into effect because that the percentages, it should work out. And once we know what the budget number is, that we don't have until we finalize where the tentative number. But once we do that, absolutely, we can apply the percentages and I can do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I would also mention that I think at a very minimal, we hold the line on any requests for any funding outside the county.
Additional requests?
Yes.
Yeah, but I haven't
The other question I have is
raised any of those.
that, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the occupancy tax language, I thought that monies could be appropriated towards events such as, and when I say events, I say DPW charges, sheriff's charges, any miscellaneous expenses that occur to put on an event. Is that true? In the request, my point is, have we ever considered funding those special events where the DPW and the sheriff's department or other miscellaneous employees that we currently fund out of the general fund, have we ever considered funding those through occupancy tax dollars? And what that number would mean to this budget if we figured that out? Because I think in a language, you can do that, or it is an applicable
You mean like the
use of
Bloom,
money.
like the Bloom Fest?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any events that
We have
require,
done that in the past.
we do that, take it out of the occupancy tax dollars?
But we've requested that.
Okay. Right. Any events that we host, there could possibly be a little bit of an adjustment to your budget.
Yep, yep.
If we consider that.
Another thing that I had thought about, and I wasn't sure if I was had the power to do it with that tax, is workforce development has requested more funding to cover basically cover their fringe, do more programming. Me, I think at least for a year, if you funded that out of tax to the tune of 100 or 200,000, I wouldn't say anything wrong with that.
I would support that right today, if we were to do that, to take that recommendation to the board.
And then that'll give the next budget a chance to
Sure.
work it in.
Where's Dennis?
Well, and if you mentioned that, I did ask Dennis and he's, no.
Well,
Didn't want to hear it.
it's tough.
That's a shocker.
So, yeah, I didn't.
I think that's a good idea.
I'd support that too.
It is a valuable program,
Yep, I agree. And
so we need to find a way to make that happen. I'm just not sure, you know. I
the
don't
work,
care where it gets funded, how it gets funded, but I think everybody has a belief that it's of value for us. So,
and a lot of the workforce is to do with tourism. It's, you know, that's to make sure they have people to do the work. Good. Will do.
I think two would be appropriate, Frank. All right, I come down from my original request of 5. But I thought you agreed to.
Well, maybe you thought I did.
But my question again to Tammy that I brought up earlier, is there, can you put a number to the unfilled positions? Or if we decided that we weren't gonna hire anybody for 6 months, and how much that money, what that amount would be?
I can, off the top of my head, I cannot,
No,
but I will be able
that's
to
fine.
provide that number. The numbers I can provide you, the Warren County budget for 2022 was just over 173 million. New York State mandates comprised about 51.5% of the tax levy.
Is something to consider. I'd like us to get to that number of $1.5 million if we could. And I think in 2023, our debt service is going to decline by $4 million, $4 to $5 million. I would ask Mike, maybe that's incorrect. I looked at it. It's over. You sure you got it?
2024.
At the end of 23 or for 20?
2024.
How much is it going to decline in 23? The end of the last It's over $1 million.
The new debt, I don't think it's, I think it's increasing.
I'll have to look at it again then, okay.
24 is when, I can't remember what it's called. Jail. The jail, that's right. The jail comes off in 24, so that increases.
What number is that?
Couple million.
Couple million?
I'll have to look at that again.
That is 1.7 or 1.8 million a year.
So Frank, are you gonna take the comp plan out of the budget? The comprehensive plan that we're trying to get done out of the planning department?
That's already been appropriated.
There's
That would take a board action.
big value and we won't, we probably won't be getting into having to spend additional money to support whatever comes out of that plan until the end of the year, if not later.
You're right.
If we get the monies at all.
It kind of drives where we're going as a county. That's the thought. So it's good to have a roadmap.
The urgency though, to me, is that we need to minimize tax increase.
I agree.
That was resolution 156 of 2022.
I would also like to suggest, Frank, and again, that we not create any new positions for the calendar year of 2023.
Yep.
Keeps it tight.
I have, I've created 3, but I didn't fund them.
Thank you.
Had requests for Board of Elections for 2 years for 2 positions. So this year, I decided to create the positions, but
Okay, that works.
maybe next year they'll get some money. And the other one is building codes. And that one, we might want to consider funding. Because,
That's a revenue generating.
well, it's not just that, but there's a succession, you know, we're gonna, all the people are gonna disappear here for 3 years. The people that work there. So. That's, you know,
Or the transition plan.
but that's something we could probably do after the first year. Now that I mentioned Board of Elections, I had the thought also that, and I'm not sure we can do this. Legal or not. We are the board, so. In there, if I can find it here. In their election equipment reserve, there was about 308,000, and I had thought about funding their computer programs for 2023 out of that reserve, and that amounts to about $100,000. 3 or 4 different programs that total up to about 100,000 to make their machines work and then to tabulate everything. So I know that's not exactly equipment, but it's pretty close. Without that, the equipment don't work. So. I would ask the treasurer. Well, his
I
opinion.
don't think so.
Can't?
They're contractual expenses.
Yeah.
And like expenses that you can take out of the reserve or capital expenses. 0.2. So I don't think we'd be able to use the capital reserve for operation expenses.
How about if we just do away with the reserve?
Do away with the reserve.
Yeah, completely. I'm serious.
Well, it's a capital reserve, you can only transfer it to another capital reserve.
Frank's gonna find one.
We're using that reserve for the lease, the annual lease payment for the voting machines. they're taking. I think it's 43,000 a year out of that reserve.
Just a thought.
I like your creative thinking though, Frank.
So,
We just leave enough for paper ballots, and vote by paper.
Stones.
Settler. Are we gonna have another opportunity to sit down and maybe take a look at the numbers again and, or is this?
I doubt it, because I'm supposed to file by Friday. That was the date we had set up. I guess I could push it till Monday or Tuesday, but
So I guess my question is. How do we get to that $1.5 million? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, but I don't know how anybody else feels about it, if they're comfortable with that. I'm just not sure where we're gonna end up here. If we're gonna take any of these
I think we can get into some of it,
recommendations.
you know, but I don't know as we can, unless you really want to start cutting and it's not gonna be me that's yelling at you.
I know. I've been through it before. But
There's a lot of dollars in the budget. But once you start going.
and I know the
See,
job
The only thing I can cut is 0.2s or 0.4s, period.
that
Rest of it's out of my control. And except for the personnel requests, but as far as retirement and all the.
those are fixed numbers.
Right.
So, you know. The department heads are not gonna be would not be happy if I cut another 1.5 million out of it. But that's up to us, you know, it really is.
Well, I mean, I guess, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'd like to try to get to the 1.5 if we could. If the budget committee decides they wanna do that, I mean. Might be some maneuvering that we can still do. But then,
Again, I think I can get some of it. All of it, I think would, you know, would probably cause problems. A lot of problems. Yes,
Supervisor Brown's request, is that the 1.5 for the sheriff's increase, is that?
yeah,
the number you used
yeah.
there? And to get that embedded then into the proposed budget
Yes.
with no tax increase.
right. Or staying within the tax cap. We're gonna, there will be a slight increase. True.
Yeah.
But we'll stay within our parameters of tax cap, that and maybe some other things that. We could discuss that might help close the gap. I certainly. Feel at this point in time that. We can bump the sales tax $500,000. That brings the number down to 1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some things that maybe we can talk about, might get us there or get us close to it. That would be my thought.
will do. I'll do it. We'll take a look at the things you mentioned.
And the numbers maybe with the. And the other one, the funding that you mentioned earlier, I forgot to,
Workforce development.
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So Frank, along those lines, you know, one of the things we talked about with that workforce development was some salary adjustment. I'm not sure if it's part of that transfer of funds we might get out of OCTAX, but it's not in personnel.
Right.
And I'm not sure I want to get into talking about an individual.
Right.
But that's something that I had assumed based on conversations I had with a number of people that that position was highly valued based on what it's doing. We were going to make some adjustment there. But I don't see it. So
And
does
then,
that mean it's not going to happen?
No, there's still, you know, once I file it, that's it. I'm done.
I know through the calendar year, we discussed a position where the department head wanted to be at their increments. We've been back and forth. Again, I don't want to mention any names, but has that particular individual been adjusted to for years of service here?
No. Yeah, okay, if we're gonna start talking about,
It's just a
increments-
question,
No,
Frank.
no, I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything. That whole schedule there needs to be revised because that was never intended to be longevity. It was years, just eligibility years. And everybody, or not everybody, but a lot of people have interpreted it as, I've been here for 25 years, I should be at the 25th step. And that was not the intent of the schedule. So in my opinion, that schedule needs to be totally reworked and maybe have a range rather than years and no years and put right at the top, performance, merit performance. And that's how it should be set up, you know. Rather than all these increments, because it leads to longevity. And that was never the intent of it. So, but that's my opinion.
Mr. Chairman, every year we have our total point ones that we budget for. And then what we actually spend. There's always a differential there. Do we have, is that tracked at all of what we know?
That's about $1 million. Saving.
About $1 million.
About $1 million.
Yeah. Knowing that, if there is a trend on that, that help us. I guess we'd have to. Thank you. And then all that rolls back into the general fund, but there's $1 million right there that's not getting used that we budget for. And it's just a natural thing, so attrition, higher level employee, goes out, new person comes in, there's always those gaps. It goes unfilled for months or so. Is there any way to incorporate that to absorb some of this 1.5?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would budget that. Because it's throughout all the departments.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you would, I don't know if you could just set that up as a separate revenue.
That's kind of.
What we've done, what we do is with the $1 million that we appropriate from the fund balance, we know that that's gonna be offset by the $1 million in savings, so we're not really appropriating anything in fund balance. So you could increase the appropriate fund balance by $1 million.
Yep.
And then that would be just $1 million.
We could say that's what we've been doing all along because we appropriated $1 million already, don't we?
Yep. Never looked at it that way.
Yeah. But if we, let's say for numbers sake, and to get them all in line for the budget, we do appropriate more fund balance to cover. And maybe you'd make it up to $1 million if we know that that's what turns back over to the general fund anyway.
Right.
So.
We should look at that in greater detail, how to do that.
Yes, Doug.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great discussion today, and I think we're all, well, most of us do not want to break the tax cap if we can. So, I mean, that's the objective of all of us, especially since a lot of the towns, unfortunately, are going to be breaking the tax cap from what I'm hearing. So it'd be a double whammy to the taxpayers, and I got a real problem with that. So I love the discussion we're hearing. I love the 200,000 maybe going from the workforce going over the OC tax, which I think is a needed objective. And that funding source to me is legit as a funding source for that, because tourism is our second largest employer in the county or driver of jobs. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I also like the discussion I'm hearing on hopefully we don't have to get to it, But if we had to, hiring freeze for 6 months, but I think we can get to where we need to get. Probably without doing that. But that's almost like an emergency type of situation, but, so I support a lot of the discussion, that's happening today. And Mr. Diamond's, pointing out some different things, and I love the fact that you, Frank, were thinking creatively with the Board of Elections and stuff, even though it may not have been, maybe it didn't come to fruition. That's the type of thought process that I really encourage, and I appreciate that. So, that's what I want to say.
After a while, you keep looking for money and.
We've all been there.
See.
But I would ask this committee to take that request seriously about moving the $200,000 from the comprehensive plan, if we have to do it by resolution, back to the general fund to help balance the budget. And push down the comprehensive plan another year or two, because after you develop the comprehensive plan, once it's completed, then we got to look at funding agencies to deliver the plan. To me, the 200 grand, 200,000 would be better suited to balance this budget than to develop a plan that we don't have any funding for.
Actually, if I may, I really don't want to get too deep in the weeds with this, but one of the things that the comp plan will do is get us positioned for when the infrastructure plan, if it really comes out of Washington. We have things that we can point to in terms of what we need, what we can do, and it kind of sets the stage for us to be able to apply quickly for these grants and have the background to help justify our application for the grants. So I can't get into all the reasons, Jack, but I think it's a valid expense. It's already been budgeted. It was approved earlier this year. And we've already made moves
We haven't
with an
awarded
RFP.
anything.
We've got the RFP's been out. I believe we're getting ready to move forward with that consultant to come in and make this happen. So this has been in the works for months.
Well, then the alternative to that is come up with another 200,000 out of the budget. Because that $200,000 reduces that $1.5 million to develop a plan that we don't know if we can fund.
Well, I don't want to fight over.
That's
you know,
my thought.
I got it,
I appreciate
you know.
you.
There might be others somewhere else.
Sure.
I'm open for discussion. If the board feels that that's what they want to do, then, I've lost arguments before. I'll lose another one, right? But I think that there's value there. So,
I don't disagree with you.
Mr. Swan.
Just on that, what Mr. Diamond was talking about, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that funding source has already been established out of the 2022 budget. For that money.
It has been, yes.
Okay.
We can always move it though,
Well, I
by
just-
board resolution.
Okay.
We chose to do
I
that.
just want to make sure that everybody understood that it was already appropriated.
Been appropriated?
22 budget. Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was out of the general.
Out of the general fund.
Right.
So Frank, one more thing. I know that there's, nobody wants to cut. But I haven't seen anything about the EDC. Mr. Siplon's here. If you look at what they've done the past year or so, there's a number of businesses that have come here that are adding to our tax base with their facilities, are adding to our constituents that are going to be paying sales tax and everything else. There's Shershowitz, there's the Renewable Energy Group. If you guys want to hear more, I'm sure Jim could talk about it, but I think there was a request for 500,000. I'm not sure where we are with that, but if you could enlighten me in terms of where you are right now with your thoughts, I appreciate it.
Yes, the request was for an additional 200,000, and I am looking at putting 50. So be a $50,000 increase.
50,000 increase.
Right. So it'd be 350.
I was gonna ask for a reduction. Probably not a good time to bring that up.
No.
Plus, plus I was looking at 10,000 for the LDC.
Increase.
Yeah, because of the requirements, basically. Legal requirements and accounting and that type of thing.
You know, I can't speak for Jim. And again, I believe there's huge value there. I think you understand that also. You know, if it's appropriate for him to come to the microphone to kind of give his pitch in terms of why. I would support that, but that's up to you as the chair.
During privilege of the floor.
Yeah. He's welcome to do that. I don't think he's gonna change,
Okay,
thought about that quite a bit, and it just. I think 50 is, in my opinion, is reasonable
thank you, Frank.
at this time. Things were, if we hadn't increased salaries by $4.5 million. Might entertain it.
I get it.
Since August 1st.
Things are tight.
That's a pretty big jump.
Well, maybe the towns can kick in a little bit. Right? If they have any kicking
So-
around in the city, can
Thank
throw
you.
it a little bit to help out and get them balanced in terms of where they need to be.
Yes, Doug.
Yeah. So, so we're in agreement on the different directions we're taking, correct? I mean, you know,
I think so.
okay, so. All right,
I think the main thing I wanted to get out of this was that that the committee's okay being just below the tax cap as far as an increase in taxes.
and I'm personally comfortable with that, I've already expressed that earlier, so. So let's just keep,
And the other things will just whittle away at the.
yeah, until we get there. Okay, good.
Anything else from anyone?
Well, motion to adjourn.
Privilege of the floor.
Oh,
Mike,
okay,
yes,
yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, there's a couple of things that. I don't know the microphone out there. First thing is, you were talking about using the occupancy tax to pay for overtime, DPW, sheriff, and those type of things. There are counties in the state that are using occupancy tax money to pave roads. So I don't think that there's a real problem with using occupancy tax money to cover those items. And actually, I think it's a pretty good idea. So that's something I think that should be looked at. And the other thing, and I know I've said this warning before, but in 2005, there was $25 million in the surplus, and they started using surplus money to keep the tax rate down. And by 2008, it was down to $5 million. So, and it's like the budget officer said, you're getting pretty close to the cliff, so you got to be careful. And I just want to keep sounding that alarm. And Frank, I think you're doing a great job. And I wouldn't want your job. So, there's a couple of little items in the budget and some revenue stuff. Would you prefer I talk to you about those on the side?
I don't care.
Okay, well, the one thing I noticed is that the property tax auction revenue, you bumped from 150 to 350.
Yep.
I see where you're going with that. We had an auction Saturday. Took in $442,000. We took back out the amount of taxes, which was about 150. That means you're going to be at about 302. So you're short 48,000 on the revenue side, and nothing gets put over to the testing fund.
Yep.
The last 4 auctions, 2 of them have been way under, 2 of them have been way over. So it's kind of a crapshoot. I just wanted to kind of bring that up, and I know where you're going with it, and I can understand it, but I just also don't want to see us having a revenue shortfall and then not having some money to put over into the testing reserve.
I did decide to reduce that by 75,000. So.
All right.
Instead of adding 150, I'm only going to add 75.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. So that, and like I said, I'm not gonna argue or dispute it with you. I mean, I know where you're trying to get, and it's a tough nut to crack. And I respect what you've done so far. It's been very good.
The other thing is, and I noticed, and I don't know, is the out of units for next year. I didn't see anything for them. Did I misread it?
Or,
Pay raises or the cost of living?
no, there is not. No,
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I'd seen that right.
you know,
Okay.
I should probably do those.
That's why I asked if you wanted me to talk on this. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Asking to use actually tax for these special events is not novel. I did that when I was back in 2010, 11, or 12, and I got shot down by the chairman and the actually tax committee at the time. It was in direct contrast to what we were paying the overtime for the sheriff's department for some of these events. And so I brought it up once before. At the time, we had a strong committee chairman from this Gonzalez who no way, and the committee voted it down, but I think it's a proper use of actually tax money when we're expending a lot of extra officers' time on these events. And so this is not the first time it was brought up. I brought it up and was clearly rebuffed. And I think it was chairman of the board. It didn't make any difference. We just moved on from it. So, but I do think it's a great idea. But you do have to be careful with how much of that actually tax money you throw out into these other events, because that can dry up too. Thank you.
Frank and the committee, I want to, I stand here with a little trepidation because I understand the role that you are all playing. And if I was in your chairs, I'm not so sure I would do things differently than you're doing them. But I think there's some things that I've shared with some of you one-on-one that we do need to at least acknowledge. And I'd like to make a deposit in the bank of future considerations. This county is outperforming its peers, and not just this year. Through the pandemic, this county outperformed all of its neighbors in terms of its response, particularly in terms of tourism dollars, sales tax dollars, and occupancy tax dollars. If you look just south of us in Saratoga County, they struggled at the exact same time that our revenues increased. This past year, in the Capital District, the second most businesses that were formed in the entire 8-county region were in Warren County. That's never occurred before in the history of them tracking those numbers. 633 new businesses were formed in Warren County in the last year. I don't even know who all of them are. There's so many that we can't keep up with that. What's happening right now is an opportunity, and it's a renaissance for the rejuvenation of Warren County. And we benefited from it. The basis that you're operating from, as challenging as it is less vexing than your neighbors. That didn't come as an accident. And it didn't come solely because of either what I did or the EDC did. It came because of a unique combination of factors of the public and private partnership that's occurred in this county over the last several years. But we also need to continue to invest in it, or it will go back into hiding the way that it was 3 or 4 years ago. When I took the job, I sat in a room. I think Kevin was there, Ryan was there, Mike Wild, you were there. When Ed passed away suddenly, I don't think any of us knew what we were going to do. It was the most daunting time in my professional life. And I looked at all of the leaders there and I said, what do you need right now? And they said, we need some strong leadership over broadband. Billions of dollars that are being invested and we're not getting what we need. If you look at that subject alone, this county has outperformed not only its neighbors, but every county in New York. You have signed more people up. You have more people with broadband access, people who've never had it, who never imagined they would. You sat through the stories of Thurman and White Space, and now every one of the residents of Thurman has access to fiber-based broadband that is better than many of the residents of Queensbury. This again did not happen by accident. And when we did that, we did not ask for any more money. In fact, we just invested our fund balance. And we did it consciously, and we said we would do it. We spent down half of our fund balance over the last 2 years. We did what we were asked to do, and we did it without asking for any more money. But at some point, it is not sustainable for our organization or any organization to increase its scope, deliver outsized results, and not have that funding restored. Now, we will find a way to operate on whatever figure you give us, because we have to. This, like I said, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to repopulate our community. We have the opportunity for the first time in most of our adult lives to welcome new residents here. If we can build housing for them, they will come here. But when I came here this morning, there were 1,500 open jobs in Warren County. When I came here this time last year, there were more than 1,500 open jobs in this county. Our biggest need continues to be to figure out how to say yes to the opportunity that's in front of us. And I would suggest to you, I'll be very wary of putting off your comprehensive plan. Your planning, your leadership is what differentiated you from your neighbors. I do not think you should fall back to point tactics. You should continue to be strategic and tactical at the same time. You're up to it. We're all up to it. We need to chart a course for the next 30 or 40 years that takes advantage of the fact that people want to be here. Businesses are telling you they want to be here. They need a place, not only to house that business, but they need a place to live. And they need organizations that are ready to welcome them with the resources that they need today, not the ones they needed 10 years ago. And I'm not even sure what all of that is. I'm still trying to figure it out every day. So I would suggest to you that this is not so much a plea for more money this year. We will continue to come back to you and talk about what is a sustainable solution year after year after year. But I would take stock of the fact that your situation, as difficult as it is better than most of your peers. Every single tax figure that you are operating from, property tax, occupancy tax, sales tax, all of them are not only up from last year, they're up beyond what your original budget estimates were. Ask yourself if you believe that's the kind of future you'd like to invest in. And what are the components that you need to continue to invest in to ensure that that's still the case a year from now or 5 years from now? We're headed into some unique headwinds. People ask me all the time. I'm on television sometimes talking about what's going to be the impact of interest rates. I'm not sure I know any better than you, but people ask me. It's going to be daunting. It's going to create a little bit of a slowdown. But we have a running head start. We've never had in almost all of our professional lives the opportunity we have in front of you. And I would ask you, not only as you're working through this budget, but as you're working through all of the legislative agenda, to keep your eyes not only on the horizon that is 3 months from now, but the one that's 3 years from now and 30 years from now. Because we have the opportunity to be even better and even bigger than we are. And we will be your partner, no matter what you fund us at, to help us get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Any numbers in play? All right, well.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Moved by Supervisor Beatty,
I'll second it.
seconded by Supervisor Diamond. All in favor?
Aye.